Good morning, everyone.
The Canadian NAFTA team was clearly feeling pretty good.
We have brought you some popsicles. So we'll see you guys later.
Joking around with journalists isn't something politicians do if things are going badly. The Foreign Affairs Minister spent much of her day at the negotiating table, returning for 3 separate meetings with her American counterparts.
That was a long, intensive conversation with Ambassador Lighthizer and his team. We covered a lot of ground. The atmosphere remains constructive. There's a lot of goodwill.
Optimism was echoed by the Prime Minister, who suggested to Canadian premiers on a telephone briefing NAFTA talks are going pretty well, but there are still some concerns.
The only thing I will say is that, again, indicated very, very clearly and very forcefully Quebec's position on our 3 major areas of concerns: supply management, cultural exception, and dispute resolution mechanism.
A source tells CBC News those 3 issues, dairy, protections for Canadian cultural industries, and dispute resolution, remain unresolved.
The Canadian public should expect, the American dairy industry will probably have more access to Canada by the time this agreement is concluded, and we should not lose sleep over it.
Canadian dairy concessions are being considered in exchange for American compromises on the dispute resolution system. Negotiators have to work fast if they're going to meet Donald Trump's self-imposed deadline of tomorrow.
It's never over till it's over, and in Washington it's never over, so we're dealing with Washington.
Derek Burney helped negotiate Canada's original free trade agreement with the U.S. in the 80s.
What we're really looking at as a solution in this negotiation is something that Donald Trump can celebrate in America as a win for him with his base. We should never lose sight of that.
You're looking live there at this hour at a shot of the United States Trade Representative's office, where talks are about to resume. Chrystia Freeland is expected to arrive any moment now, and she and her counterpart, Robert Lighthizer, are going to sit down, even at this late hour, and try and hash out a little bit further the details of a NAFTA deal before that imposed deadline by President Trump of tomorrow. Now, many Canadians, of course, know Chrystia Freeland and know that she has been the face of these talks, but she is just one of several negotiators at the table. Here's a look at some of the other key players. Steve Verhoeven is Canada's chief NAFTA negotiator. He also knows how to make a deal. He led the team that secured CETA, a massive trade deal with the European Union, and was praised in the House of Commons for it.
He's one of those soft-spoken, quiet gentlemen that always has his finger on the pulse of what's going on.
But even Verhoeven admits NAFTA is different. Earlier this year, he called these negotiations the most unusual he's seen.
They do not come to the table, our counterparts, with a lot of flexibility.
Also on Team Canada, Gerald Butts, the Prime Minister's close personal friend and principal secretary, Brian Clough, Justin Trudeau's point man on Canada-U.S. relations, and David McNaughton, Canada's ambassador to the United States.
Do you have any early thoughts on the Canadian compromises?
On the U.S. side, there's top trade official Robert Lighthizer, a self-described curmudgeon and deal-maker who, like his boss, is skeptical of free trade. He works closely with Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and advisor. Lighthizer called him a dream to work with, and Kushner has emerged as a key conduit between the White House and PMO. And finally, there's Kelly Craft, U.S. ambassador to Canada. She says she backs her president's agenda, but she also has a personal stake in NAFTA.
Being from Kentucky, Canada is our #1 trade partner, so I have a real interest at making certain that this border that we see in Kentucky is very thin and becomes thinner.
Je vais parler avec vous après ça. Merci.
Are you going to make the deadline for tomorrow?
At what time we can wait for you? Later?
And that's Chrystia Freeland heading back into negotiations now at this late hour in Washington, D.C., sitting across from her, Robert Lighthizer, and some of other Canada's officials to see if they make this deadline that the president declared for tomorrow.